Howdy, y'all. I'm doing the intro weird because it's a Wimpy bite, and that's just what's fucking happening now. What's up? This is a shorter episode of What Is My Podcast About, where we're just gonna fucking talk about the new Mortal Kombat movie because we finally got to see it, and we wanted to talk about it last week, but we couldn't, so we're talking about it fucking now, and you're dealing with it, and you're accepting it, and moving on with your life. Why is the intro taking me more words than normal? My name is Peter Garzakely. I'm your host as usual. I'm joined as always by... I'm not going to call you guys faithful because you fucking dunked on me last time for using that word. So my friendly co-hosts, Keith Ramsey.
Still debatable.
Holy fuck, okay. And Matthew Grace.
Hello. I will be as friendly as possible this time.
Good. At least me and Matt are so friends. And by me and Matt, I mean Matt is friends with me and I don't know if I'm friends with him. Fuck, alright. Just jumping right in. Let's talk about this movie.
So before that, it goes without saying, but I think I'm going to say this just because the movie literally just came out as of recording this a day ago, and as of this going up live about 4 days ago. Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert. If you click on the video entitled, or not the video, the podcast titled Mortal Kombat 2021, we're going to talk about the movie that just came out because we just watched it. Be forewarned, we're going to spoil shit.
We understand if you clicked on this one accidentally thinking it was about the 1995 movie that we just did an episode on, but yeah.
Or if you thought we released a Wimpy bite about Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which we won't, sorry.
Unless you asked for it.
Okay, no, we're just not going to do it.
If I see at least 3 comments of Mortal Kombat Annihilation on the post for this video, I'll do it. I'll force Peter to watch it, we won't, and then he'll tell us about the story.
Oh God, that sounds so much worse. Alright, fuck it, I'm in. Alright, that's what's happening. If you guys comment, if 3 separate people comment. Alright,
So, the reason I wanted to also give the spoilers, because I want to point one thing out, and Peter can attest to this, that when the trailers were coming out, and the whole question about who Cole was became a thing, I decided to call my shot, and I said, I'm calling it now. Cole is going to be the descendant of Scorpion.
Yeah.
And I thought this was going to be the big end act revelation. Now we find it about like 30 minutes into the movie.
Find out in the first fucking scene of the movie. It's very heavily hinted and then confirmed 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Second scene, we find out. First scene, we have an inkling that, hey, he's got a descendant now.
Well, because we get the opening, Hanzo death scene and his family dying, but the baby was like not got. Then Raiden picks up the baby and then goes leave. And then all of a sudden we get Cole tying yellow wraps around his hand.
Yeah. So, before we talk about this movie, I have one quick thing to say, which is, before we watched this movie a couple hours ago, like 2 hours ago, Keith pointed out that the reviews for this movie had it at 54%, and I just need to come out and say right now, the reviews are fucking wrong. This movie's perfect. There's like 2 changes I would make to it, and other than that, it's amazing.
Yeah, anyone who gave that review is just sorely missing out on the amount of Sub-Zero versus Scorpion content that we actually got.
Yeah.
Now, I will clarify some things. The percentage has gone up to 55% from the 50%. And Google reviews are just like or dislike, and it has a 90% like.
Okay. That's much better.
Good. Fucking pretentious critics.
Because what I will say is, Mortal Kombat has never been about, it has to be the most amazing story. Did it deliver on what Mortal Kombat was? I think it did. And that's all it really needed to do.
Yeah,
and
it was great.
And they did flawless victory correctly this time.
Yeah, there was one flawless victory, and it was actually a flawless victory. Instead of calling it out 3 times, but only one of them was a flawless victory. Alright. So, let's just fucking get into it, alright?
Yeah, the opening scene in the 1600s of Japan.
Yeah. 1600s at the Hanzo Hasashi compound, where Hanzo's talking to his wife about how much he loves her and carrying buckets of water. A little callback to the 1995 movie.
I don't know if it was a callback.
When Sub-Zero was killed by a bucket of water. It probably wasn't, but in my mind it absolutely was. So Hanzo fucks off to get more water, and Sub-Zero just kills everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We see...
comes along to finish off his bloodline for whatever reason.
Well, it's because we end up finding out that there's a prophecy that the Hanzo bloodline is going to be the one who wins Mortal Kombat?
Yeah. So, at this point, we know in the modern day that it's been 9 generations of Outworld winning Mortal Kombat, and they need to win 10 in a row in order to invade. So presumably they heard about the prophecy 400 years ago, was probably about 9 generations ago. So that's when they started their winning streak after trying to kill off the Hanzo Hasashi bloodline in order to stop that. This is probably one of the things I would change about this movie is the fact that it shows Hanzo Hasashi die, then we hear the baby cry, then we hear lightning, then Raiden just shows up, collects the baby, and then we get a cut
and the dagger.
And the dagger. And then we get a cut to a black screen where text says, Mortal Kombat has been won 9 times by Outworld. The prophecy foretells that the blood of Hanzo Hasashi will unite the realm to win Mortal Kombat or some shit like that. I would cut out the line about the prophecy, and I would cut out everything after Hanzo dies, so we just get the baby crying, so that there's no real super heavy-handed indication that fucking Cole is going to be...
And that's the thing, if you cut out that and just immediately cut to modern day, it still kind of loosely implies that the baby is, but then when Raiden gets the confirmation, that's when they can deliver us the prophecy and what happened.
Yeah, they can do the flashback to... they don't even have to show the baby crying. They can just do the flashback to Hanzo dying, we hear the baby cry, and then we see Raiden collect the baby. That's when we can see that happen to explain what happened, rather than having it laid out at the beginning. I think that would have just been much better off done in flashback rather than at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, because we even got little snippets of the connection throughout the movie when Cole had these little dream sequences where he'd see Scorpion wreathed in flame.
Yeah. So yes, we now, modern day, get to see fucking Cole... Does Cole have a last name?
Young.
Young?
Yeah.
Okay. We see Cole preparing for a fight in MMA because he's an MMA fighter. We know he used to have a bit of notoriety, but these days he's just getting paid $200 a pop to get the shit kicked out of him by other fighters.
Because for whatever reason, according to the people who are around him before the fight starts, he doesn't like defending.
He attacks. It's not even well explained, his fighting style. It's just the fucking fight organizer, calls him out for not fighting, because fighting is attacking and defending, not just throwing punches wildly.
I don't know if that's entirely correct.
I would argue throwing punches wildly is still technically fighting.
I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever actually hit the block button in a Mortal Kombat game, so so far he's doing what I'm doing.
I think it's the movie trying to say that Cole has a tendency to run when the going gets tough.
We also definitely get repeated scenes of Cole just taking a fucking beating and being told that that's all he's good for. So, that's a fun character trait.
I'm sure that's foreshadowing.
Yep. So, we go from that scene to Cole explaining to his daughter that he's going to take her out to dinner. Meanwhile, this guy with real human arms shows up, and I'm specifying that because it'll come into play later. And his name is Jax, and he explains that Cole has a birthmark.
And he is jacked.
Okay, podcast over. I can't anymore. That was your wimpy bite. So Jax explains that Cole's got a birthmark, but the birthmark isn't a birthmark, it's an invitation to participate in Mortal Kombat.
I'll be fair, that's not until the snowstorm and the burger joint.
Yeah, in the middle of July.
Yeah, he's got a crazy birthmark, and Cole's like, cool, goodbye, there we go. And then they end up at a burger joint, and Cole goes in to buy burgers while his daughter sits outside eating ice cream and french fries. So, did he just buy her ice cream and french fries with the plan of buying more food later? Why didn't he just buy all the food at once? Or did they just find ice cream and french fries on the table, and she just started digging in?
That's a good point.
I mean, to be fair, ice cream's super easy to make, and most of these burger joints have the fries already kind of prepared. The burger to specification usually is what takes the time.
Fair, so they might have just given her the burger and french fries. And
also, why am I defending the concept of making burgers in a Mortal Kombat movie here?
I don't know.
Why is this your nitpick?
Trust me, I have bigger nitpicks, but this was the one that came up right now. I just realized that the timing was a little awkward. Anyways, Cole runs inside. It's snowing out, and we only know of exactly one character who has snow-based powers.
And then lo and
Tundra.
behold.
Yeah, Tundra.
Frost.
Kodokan.
I don't think Kodokan has snow powers.
No, he doesn't. I was just naming characters at this point.
Well, everything starts to freeze now. Like, really freeze. And then menacing
The
shot.
temperature goes below 0.
Yes!
Is there a word for that?
We might stumble across it at some point. Can't.
There's something, but it just doesn't come to mind
It's
right
on
now.
the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. Anyways, Sub-Zero shows up. I'm sorry. So Sub-Zero shows up and just starts trying to kill the shit out of Cole, but except not really targeting Cole, more so targeting Cole's daughter.
And that one guy that was just unlucky enough to be on the street.
Yeah.
The snow, like, the ice chunks literally fucking hits him in the head. He goes down, he's just laying there for the rest of the
He's just
scene.
lying in the middle of the street, which, spoiler alert, Jax is about to drive through that street where Buddy is just lying down.
Jax drives up from the other side and then backs up. So maybe that's why Jax didn't go forward in that scene.
That's fair. So, Snow, fuck, Cole. Oh, God.
Snow, fuck, Cole?
So
Please talk about it.
this is where Jax explains the whole birthmark is not a birthmark, it's an invitation to a big tournament to save the world.
Now, I will mention, I did have a bit of a problem with this from the trailers, as I mentioned before, but seeing it in play, I actually didn't mind that much. It actually wasn't too bad.
Yeah, watching it actually play out, it made a bit more sense than it did in the fucking trailer. We also have Jack show off the fact that he also has a mark. Very importantly, the mark is not on his arms, it is on his chest.
I thought it was like more
like side, back area. It's just key that it's not on his arms because those are going to continue to exist for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, you don't want to like ruin his perfect arms.
Yeah, of course. He's got such immaculate arms. So anyways, they end up driving down an alley and seeing Sub-Zero at the other end of the alley and realizing they can't back away 2 times in one scene, so they're going to have to fight him. But Jax explains that he's going to fight Sub-Zero, and Cole's just got to get his family the fuck out.
I'm going to fight him one-on-one, fair and square. Now wait while I get my gun out of the trunk.
Yeah.
And he's a soldier, so he has a chance.
6 tours.
6 tours.
He's done 6 tours.
So he has a chance as opposed to the MMA fighter that he just watched get beaten to a pulp.
Well, the MMA fighter who's clearly had some recognition in his earlier career and has since just fucked right off and stopped fighting well. So yes, fucking Jax brings a gun to a snow fight and loses, obviously. And in the process, he loses those immaculate arms we were discussing.
It's a bit of frostbite.
I'm going to be honest, anytime Sub-Zero has a fight in this movie, it's fucking great. And I love this fight between Sub-Zero and Jax.
I absolutely love the effects of the gun freezing just as it's shot and the bullets were leaving the barrel.
And, like, Sub-Zero doing, like, the head tilt dog thing as the bullets are just very slowly moving towards him.
You know, the sure sign of insanity in any character.
He's like, oh, look at that.
Tilt their head slightly when they're looking at you. It's like, okay, that person's evil and about to snap.
Yeah. And then he literally snaps the gun in half, so yeah.
And then Jax's arms, and then pushes him off the building.
Yeah. Jax gets bonked real hard on the head and then just falls unconscious.
And Sub-Zero doesn't even bother checking if the person he came to kill, one of the people who came to kill, was actually killed.
And this is... I don't know if Sub-Zero just, like... He's so confident in his ability, he just doesn't think to check anything, because he missed the baby at the beginning. He misses actually killing Jax, reports, I killed Jax. And then later on, he apparently kills Cole's family, but they're not dead. And it's like, you gotta check these things.
Well, and even at the beginning, he didn't actually completely kill Hanzo. Hanzo just...
Yeah, Hanzo fucking crawled away!
He crawled away and just bled out.
So, here's the other fucking key detail, is we know through some method or another that the fighters for Outworld have some ability to sense people with the mark, because that's how they've been tracking Cole, because they just kind of keep showing up wherever Cole is without, like, following him for a while. Which means that they should probably still be able to fucking sense Jack, and he had some stuff like, no, I can sense him, but that's a dead guy right there. I know dead, because I've kind of made people dead in the past.
I'm an expert at killing people. We've only seen you effectively kill 2 people, and everyone else survived. They did die afterwards, in one case.
The only 2 people we've seen you effectively kill happened off screen, and you froze them to death. That's all we've seen.
And so far, that's a 50% success rate.
Yeah. Oh God! All right, so
his performance is subpar.
I don't even remember what happens after this in the movie.
Well,
so Jax gives Cole directions to his partner's place, Sonya.
Yeah, and while this is all going on as well, we're also getting like cutscenes to Outworld, where Shang Tsung's sitting on a throne talking about like, you know, we have to, you know, defeat these guys, blah, 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 we're going to have our 10th win. And then he says something which makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but it's never been actively said in the Mortal Kombat universe. But Shang Tsung's like, we didn't win 9 in a row by playing fair. I'm like, oh, fucking course! That makes so much sense.
See, It makes sense, but I also take issue with it because we're explicitly told repeatedly that there are rules they have to follow. Like, Raiden says out loud, you're not allowed to kill my combatants before combat. In the 1995 movie, he, like, threatens to kill Shang Tsung and his followers if they get into a fight before Mortal Kombat. In this one, apparently there's rules, but fuck all happens if you break them.
Well, there's two factors at this that I think are at play. Shang Tsung actually does specify that fighting, conflict before the tournament is not forbidden. So the combatants fighting each other as long as Shang Tsung doesn't get involved, I guess, and Raiden doesn't get involved is fine. Although I guess Shang Tsung's not really one of the elder gods, so it doesn't really matter for him. He's another combatant. But at the same time, where the mark transfers upon someone being defeated, I think that means that it's kind of like a built-in defense mechanism so that there's always enough people for the tournament.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily... Like, we're kind of told that if a member of Earth... In a later scene, we're told if a member of Earth kills someone with the mark, then the mark gets transferred to the person who killed them. Perhaps if someone from Outworld or someone who already has a mark kills someone who has a mark, the mark just gets transferred to, like, some other person on Earth.
Thus, the closer they get to the tournament, if they kill off the actual fighters before they can prepare, then the new people can't actually, which might be the case with them indicating Johnny Cage at the end of this for the sequel, which is going to be the actual tournament. Oh, by the way, this movie is all pre-tournament.
Yeah, there's not a single amount of, like, actual technical Mortal Kombat in this movie.
But it could be that Sonya kills Kano and gets his mark.
Yeah.
But Kung Lao also dies.
So his mark
might have been transferred. Or, I don't know how they're going to play this because Shang Tsung is not technically actually part of Outworld. He's from Earthrealm, but then corrupts the tournament himself. He might have the mark now?
He might, but I also feel like he's participated in tournaments in the past over the 9 years. So
yeah, if they're sticking to the lore, he would have been the champion that was eventually defeated by Kung Lao, who spared his life. And then Goro came in and killed Kung Lao and then won the rest of the tournaments.
So it's entirely possible he got Kung Lao's mark. I think it's also entirely likely that he has had a mark for centuries. But yes, so we end up meeting Sonya Blade. We also have a brief scene where fucking Cole drops off his family in a shack in the middle of the woods. And then he goes off to meet with Sonya Blade. It's also a really good scene, as you commented during the movie, because there's no, like, line about, like, this is bullshit, I'm not living up to this. It's like, no, I have to look into what's going on.
Yeah, that whole moment is pretty much in the car chase, like, why is he after me and my family? And then Jack kind of gives him, like, no, this guy's going to keep coming after you regardless and kill anyone he has to. And that's kind of the only affirmation that Cole needs. He's like, I mean, I have to do this. You saw that guy was shooting, like, ice beams.
Yeah, even his wife is like, Jack's probably killed the ice guy, we're good. And Cole's like, no, we really should be more certain than that we're safe.
We need to be more certain than Sub-Zero when we kill somebody.
Yeah. So, meets up with Sonya Blade. Sonya Blade is the one who gives us the whole lore dump of the world where Mortal Kombat is a thing that happens every generation. There's been talks about great tournaments through a whole bunch of different civilizations.
And we get a cool little few Easter eggs here. We get an image that looks very much like it's Nightwolf.
Yep.
And then we also get another image of, looks like a bust of Kotal Khan.
Yeah. So...
My favorite part in this, though, is when she says it's Mortal Kombat. And he's like, it sounded good up to that point. But that last set sounded like you made it up. In fact, they spelt the name wrong.
Yeah. Because it's Mortal Kombat with the K.
And in that particular picture, the K was backwards.
Like, half the letters were backwards, which is ridiculous, because it's mostly M's, O's, A's, and T's.
That's right, maybe it all was backwards.
Like, the letters we see backwards are the L's and the K's, which are the only ones that could be backwards.
I'm going to assume it was all backwards now. You're going to get your face on this.
Oh, fuck. Alright, so... Oh, fuck.
We get introduced to another great character
now. The best character of the movie.
Did anyone check to see if Cole's name is spelled with a K?
I'll be right back. Give me a second.
If they didn't, I'm upset.
Nah, it's spelled with a C.
Oh.
They done goofed.
It's okay, now that he's accepted his destiny, it's probably with a K now.
Oh, yeah.
Although, there's only one other character in the Mortal Kombat franchise that their name has a K that, or C, that stayed a C, and that's Chameleon, the female reptile.
Yeah. So yeah, we get introduced to quite possibly the best character in the entire movie, which is Kano. Motherfucking Kano.
Currently chained down to a chair.
He's the 100% the comedy of this movie.
Yeah.
And just... All of his lines are gold. I don't know if it was like improv because the actor also has a comedic background himself. But just like... He was on point and I laughed at almost everything he said.
Yeah, like... There was maybe like 3 of his lines that I didn't fucking laugh at. Everything else was fucking great. Like there's... Shortly after this, fucking Reptile breaks in, fucking starts fighting with them. Kano calls out to Cole. He's like, let me go. I can help you in this. And Cole calls back, just sit and wait. And Kano's like, oh, really? Fuck. Gesturing to the chains that are holding to the ground. He's like, I was thinking about taking a fucking stroll, you dumbass.
But yeah, the Reptile attacks. They end up getting thrown around because he's invisible, obviously. And Sonya starts fucking throwing knives and actually hits him in the leg with his own knife. Which, later on, he says that she did on purpose.
And she does not correct him.
Yeah, I guess.
But also, Kano did something quite intelligent in this fight. Because Reptile was invisible for the majority of the fight. Until Kano took a flare and stabbed the flare onto Reptile.
To be fair, that was partially Kano's doing. But it was Cole who called out use a flare,
Yeah.
so... We get a little bit of a hint that Cole is the leader of the team because he has strategy.
But even still, I've never seen flares implemented like that, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the whole fight, and then Kano does his fatality, punches out the heart. He's like, Kano wins! Fucking beauty! Fucking beauty! Which, obviously, we've seen this in the trailer, but still, like, it was just a great scene.
Fantastic. So, I believe we get another cut to Outworld while this is happening, and then we cut back to Earthrealm. And Sonya's walking into her fucking RV to, like, talk about the fact that their place has been compromised. Kano's just sitting there drinking a beer, drawing. It's been maybe, like, 5-10 minutes in-universe, but from the looks of it, Kano has perfected a fucking drawing of him holding fucking Reptile's skull with the words, finally killed it. The word finally really makes me believe that he has met Reptile before and just couldn't kill him in the past.
And... he came out and said that he is working on an animated adventures of Kano.
Yeah, Kano graphic novel. Now, the thing to point out here, too, is Kano has one of the marks, but apparently he got it when he killed a powered individual from Brazil. I can't think of a character that would be, so it's probably just like, throwaway, oh, he killed somebody, got their power. But Sonya also doesn't, and he keeps, like, just chiding her about it.
Yeah.
I was half expecting Sonya to kill Reptile in this scene just to get the mark, but...
Reptile wouldn't have it, though, because it seems these marks are specifically for Earthrealm fighters.
Yeah, that is definitely how it seems.
Okay.
So yeah, we also... Another fucking beautiful... I'm gonna try not to just say every great Kano line, but I have to say the one where they first walk in the RV, and Kano's drinking a beer, and Sonya's like, oh, make yourself comfortable, like, sarcastically. And Kano's like, I have. Also, your beer's shit, and you're almost out.
Yeah, Kano's just like, I'm fucking out, and then he mentions that he knows where Raiden's temple is. And
Which is where they have to go to get ready for the tournament.
Yeah, so as he's leaving, Sonya ends up bluffing. It's like, oh, I'll give you like $3 million, essentially what it comes down to end up joining.
And Kano's like, bullshit, you live in a rundown trailer.
Yeah, so he ends up accepting the plan, he's going to take them there. Not before he ends up spitting on a gnome, and then specifies how much he hates Snowguard gnomes.
Yeah, another beautiful bit of foreshadowing to something we'll get to much later down the line.
And then, they're off on the plane and end up in the middle of the desert because Kano is taking them to Raiden's palace. Also, this whole time he keeps talking about how he's the Black Dragon and all that stuff. And in the game, he does lead the Black Dragon, and I don't think there's a point where he's never actually leading it. I mean, I guess a bit later in the franchise, during the original run of games, he wasn't so much. Because he has to revive it, and it's got like 5 people in it.
Yep.
But the way he was talking, I'm like, he's definitely not in the Black Dragon anymore in any capacity, which kind of gets confirmed later on by Cabal.
Yeah.
But when they first land in the desert, I just loved Kano and explaining where they were going with the GPS.
Yeah, because Sonya's like, how far are we? And Kano
It's
says...
Like, it's about 22k, maybe 23k if we're lucky. 24k if you're hopeful. I don't know, you could be right with 30k. Probably 22 or 35k or something.
35, just to be safe.
See, I misheard it and thought he was saying days.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, we're about 22 days out. Yeah, 25, 28, 35, and no one's surprised. Like, man, he's really just ramping up the amount of time they're spending in this desert with no fucking supplies. So, they wander through the desert a little bit. Kano makes another fucking comment about how Sonya clearly just wants his mark. They spar a little bit, and
Sonya clearly comes out the victor of the fight.
Yeah, shows she's stronger than him, but she's not going to kill him. And he points out, like, oh, you're definitely not going to get a mark with that attitude.
So we then have them wander a little bit further into the desert to meet a mysterious stranger standing on top of a hill. And he introduces himself as Liu Kang immediately after shooting Kano with a fireball for walking towards him.
Which immediately invests Kano into the training, because Kano's now all on board with
He
getting
wants
power of his own.
superpowers.
He's like, oh, does that mean I'll get fucking superpowers if I go through with this training? It does, doesn't it? It does. Tell me it does. It does, though, right? Like, I get superpowers.
Maybe shooting fireballs or something better? What are my options here?
So they wander through the desert. They make it to Raiden's temple. There's some secret passages they walk through. And then they meet with Raiden. He's a guy.
He's got lightning.
He shits on them for not being good enough to be a part of his Mortal Kombat tournament.
Now, when they enter the temple, too, there's so many Easter eggs to, like, Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat stuff, because we see Shinnok's amulet. On top of this, we also see some, like, painting description, so we see the Great Kung Lao.
Yeah.
We see the Sub-Zero Scorpion fight from the beginning of the movie.
We see Goro tearing a guy in half.
Which I'm also pretty sure is Kung Lao again. Shao Kahn we get a little piece of. And one thing I was a bit surprised to see in there, but was pretty cool, was they had a picture of Delia. So Delia is one of the key figures in the story of the Mortal Kombat Armageddon storyline, where the Pyramid of Argus, which is supposed to give the person godlike power to stop the destruction of the worlds, was prophesized by Delia. So seeing her there kind of like also puts a hint to like, oh, this might be leading towards that Armageddon situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they show up. Raiden shits on all of them for not being good enough. And then fucking Sub-Zero shows up ready to tear ass, or kick ass, again, along with a bunch of others. Some of the characters we've seen in some of the flashes to Outworld.
Sub-Zero, Melina,
Raiko, and Cabal are the ones that are fighting under Shang Tsung. And Goro too, though he only really has kind of like one scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they show up. This is when we get the shit about how you're breaking the rules. There's no rules about conflict before Mortal Kombat. Blah, 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 blah. And then Raiden throws down an energy barrier to keep them from getting in. Made out of lightning. Real lightning.
and then the bad guys skulk away.
They just fuck right off.
It's like,
Which
fine,
is-
hide in your barrier.
It's great because every time we get a flash to Outworld, fucking Shang Tsung talks about how none of these fighters are shit and they don't have a chance of winning Mortal Kombat, but we have to fight them right now so they don't end up fighting in Mortal Kombat. Fucking ridiculous. Alright, so...
And then
Now-
Cabal's like, you're gonna love Kano.
Yeah.
So, we also... Now we get the... Jax reintroduced to the group, except now he has no arms because of the shit that went down earlier. We also are introduced to a fighting pit where all these fighters must train, and they have to unlock their powers in the fighting pit through training. Which is weird, because literally everyone we see unlock powers does it outside of the fighting pit, including the one story we're told about someone who unlocks their powers that we don't actually see happens outside the fighting pit.
Well, I think he was meaning at, like, that's where most of them do, but, like, they can unlock at any point as long as you have the mark. Because, I guess, yeah, because Liu Kang got his when he killed a criminal guy.
The guy who had the mark, he literally took the mark from a baby merchant, took the baby merchant's mark, and then immediately had his fire powers.
Yeah. And then Cole gets his powers from fighting Goro at the cabin in the
Woods, yeah.
Well, I think it's more of a field, maybe like a farmhouse.
Yeah.
But everyone else, I guess, gets their well, not Sonya as well. Sonya gets her powers off screen. But
Kano just gets angry enough to shoot lasers from his eyes.
and where it's in the temple, I'll make the exception on this one. And Jax is literally in the arena when it happens.
Yeah.
It's probably more they use that arena when they have time to prepare for a tournament to
Yeah,
train the fighters.
In theory, if it wasn't less than a month, we're also told it's less than a month before Mortal Kombat. They need to get ready right now. In theory, if they had like a whole generation after the last Mortal Kombat to get ready, then they would probably start training people from childhood in the fighting pit to awaken their powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fighting ensues in the pit. We get some great scenes of Kano and fucking Cole getting the shit kicked out of them. Go forward in time a little bit. Jax has been given metal arms. The fucking metal arms look... Do you guys remember the fucking Jason Momoa Super Bowl commercial where he takes off arms and he's just got like tiny little stick arms.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it fucking looks like when Jackson's got his metal arms at first.
And even he says, "This isn't me."
So we're also told that every one of the fighters has an Arcana, which is like a magical power that they develop. You need to have a mark to gain an Arcana. If you don't have a mark, you can't have an Arcana. If you don't have an Arcana, you can't win Mortal Kombat.
Although I think it also kind of comes off as you don't necessarily need one to get these powers, but it definitely is like you're very unlikely to develop powers without it. That's kind of the way it comes across.
Perhaps the way I interpret it was more of you can't develop the power without the
Yeah, that's
mark.
the way the phrasing in the movie kind of made it seem like, but I can see if someone was trained for years and years with the purpose of getting an Arcana, then they'd probably be able to unlock one.
Also, I'm calling it right now, Arcana is absolutely spelled with a K.
Of course, I had no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So yes, we now know several Arcana. So for instance, Liu Kang's Arcana is fire powers, mostly presented in the form of shooting fireballs. You can also use it to make a fire dragon to eat someone. That probably doesn't come up. Kung Lao. Kung Lao also shows up during this time. But I fucking love Kano's description of like understanding Arcana after he sees Kung Lao perform, because he's like, I understand how Arcana works. It's like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're gonna get. You could shoot fireballs. You could get some pussy shit like magical frisbee hat. Who knows? Kung Lao has the magical hat. It is his Arcana. Kano develops the Arcana to shoot lasers from his eyes. Cole's power is armor that gains kinetic energy and also makes fucking tauntauns. What are they called?
Tonfas.
Tonfas, thank you.
Yeah, but all, like aside from Cole, all the characters kind of just get their powers
from the game.
So Kano and Sonya have always kind of just been tech.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of explained in like a magical sense.
Yeah, it's not actual technology, it's magical abilities that manifests in a way.
And Jack's arms just get bigger.
That was my favorite, was we see Jax trying to lift a heavy boulder, like, as people are developing their Arcanas, and I'm just like, that Jax's power. It's big arms. His arms just get bigger, right? That's what his power is.
And then his small arms transform into big arms.
Yeah.
Literally Transformer sequence.
Now everyone has their Arcana, but also Kano has switched sides because he got offered any price he could think of, doubled and then doubled again, in order to join the bad guys.
Yeah, and Cabal also just fully confirms he's no part of the Black Dragon.
Yeah. Cabal calls him up, like, you used to be the leader of the Black Dragon, now look at you. And Kano doesn't say, I'm still the leader of the Black Dragon. He says, I am the Black Dragon, which to me reads, Kano is not in charge of the Black Dragon. He just, in his mind, has stopped calling it the Black Dragon. And is just, he is the Black Dragon himself.
I'm Black Dragon, they're all assholes.
Yeah. Fighting happens. We get the best fucking... Well, we've started to get some fatalities in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, we have...
Well, up to this point, we only had Kanos.
Yeah, we had Kanos. During this fight scene when people fucking invade after Kano betrays, we get Kung Lao's fatality where he does the saw blade hat thing.
Yeah, he fights Natara, who comes swooping in, and he is like... They really show that Kung Lao is just miles up, like, ahead of everyone else, where he just, like, takes no damage. Like, she swings at him, he dodges, grabs her, and then slams her right into his spinning hat, doing his fatality. And then, of course, says flawless victory afterwards, and I was just like, finally!
Yeah.
Someone did it correct!
The three of us were so stoked, because if you've watched our full episode about the 1995 movie, which you fucking should have, you know they do it repeatedly, and they do it wrong. For them to just do it the once in this movie and have it be exactly fucking right is great. So yeah, we see fucking Kung Lao's fatality. Goro ends up fighting against Cole in the farmhouse. What do you guys think of the farmhouse fight?
I mean, so my problem with the farmhouse fight is I can understand why they wanted Goro to be the set piece for this, but if they're going to use Goro as one of the big threats on the tournament side, he's kind of already just been easily defeated by Cole.
Yeah.
But if we're going with the route that they can all be brought back to life, then...
But
like, he can still be brought back. It doesn't make him stronger.
True.
And he's already been kind of dunked on by Cole. So the only
I guess the argument could be that it wasn't a one-on-one fight because Cole's wife hits Goro with an axe, and he kind of focusing on them when the thing happens, and Cole unlocks his powers, which is the armor. So you could make that argument so Goro will be more prepared for him, but still seeing a villain that's supposed to be as menacing as Goro get defeated this early on in it.
Yeah.
With a sequel, him being that same position. I feel like it has to be like Goro's at the tournament and he's up the big threat. I feel like Shang Tsung, they have to set him up to be the big threat.
Like, I don't remember the exact timing, but Goro is either the first or the second bad character we see get killed. It's either Goro then Natara or Natara then Goro. Natara's first. Okay. But yeah, it's very early on that we see Goro just get fucking murdered.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is Kung Lao defeats Natara. Sonya and Jax both lose. Liu Kang is kind of getting grouped up on.
Yeah.
And then that's when Raiden ends up summoning back Cole. He shows up and he's like, oh, we actually have a Hasashi.
Yeah.
And then he starts trying to zap everyone out. That's also the same time that Shang Tsung also just like soul drains Kung Lao. It's like, of course they had to, because Liu Kang just was not confident in himself enough to be the hero that we need as like the storyline. So they had to kill Kung Lao off.
Yeah. Well, it's also to the point where like they built up Kung Lao as this like he was by far the strongest. So long as you have him there, people aren't going to be as fucking afraid of the other enemies.
Also, he was the only person on the team that didn't get defeated aside from Cole, I guess.
Yeah. And even then, to go back to our logic of the games, it was very clearly one of those situations where Cole lost the first round of combat against fucking Goro and then won the rest of the fight. Fucking Kung Lao had a flawless victory against Natara.
Yeah.
So yes, shit goes down. They end up getting brought to the Void.
Yeah, the world between Earthrealm and the Elder Gods realm.
Yeah. And this is where everyone's kind of all dejected about the fact that Kung Lao died and now they can't win even though they all unlocked magical powers during the fight.
He's like, you know how we beat them? We give them a tournament that they don't want to fight in.
They've been avoiding the tournament all along, so we're going to have a bunch of 1v1 combat.
So well, kind of. But here's another issue I have with this. So Raiden has specified that he can put them wherever he wants them to. It includes, without their will, being summoned to a fight on 101.
Yeah.
he could just drop them all in a volcano.
Yeah.
That would be considered interfering, I guess, and probably...
But also,
in Raiden's eyes, all of what Shang Tsung is doing is wrong and against the rules, despite the fact that he's just kind of bending them, not actually breaking them.
Okay, put them into an empty cave at the center of the earth.
Well, he doesn't even have to do that. Why do 1v1 fights if Raiden can control who the combatants are? Why not have it be a series of 5v1 fights where it's just the 5 of them killing one person? They're like, alright, Raiden, next one's up. And just another person gets teleported on top of Reiko's body.
Yeah, I see that point, but it's just gotta be, oh no, the good side is too honorable.
Yeah. So we get a couple 1v1 fights, and then we get a 2v2 fight, which is really just two 1v1 fights that are happening in the same arena.
So Jack's like, I want to fight Reiko. Sonya's like, I want to fight Melina. And it's like, no, you're going to fight Kano because we know you can beat Kano.
Also, Kano has a mark, and we need to find a way to give you a mark. You're going to fight the guy with a mark that you can take.
Of course, that wasn't said, but it was heavily implied by everybody. Including Kano earlier on in the movie.
Yes!
Because if you think about it, Kano having a mark and working for the enemy is one down on them, because Kano can easily, once the tournament happens, just go, oh, I give up, I forfeit.
Yep.
And that's one loss.
And then after this 1v1, this 1v1, and then Cole's like, and Liu Kang, you and me are going to actually fight Melina and Cabal?
Yeah. But then they don't. It's just Liu Kang and Cabal fighting, while fucking Cole is frankly kind of getting the shit kicked out of him by Melina because she can teleport.
Yeah.
And then they all make the decision, we can't fight Sub-Zero one-on-one, so we're going to do the 5-on-1 plan after we kill all these other people.
That's when we do the 5v1. Only for fucking the fights to all end. Most of them end in fatalities. In fact, do any of them not end in fatalities?
So
I guess Kano doesn't die to a fatality.
Yes, Sonya just stabs him in the eye with the gnome.
Yeah.
That he spit on earlier.
Other than that, we get to see Jack's fatality, a Liu Kang fatality, and a Sonya fatality. And then, Kano just fucking dies.
I guess Cole doesn't have a fatality that could be referenced.
In theory, I suppose we probably saw the equivalent of a Cole fatality against Goro in the earlier fight when he drove his Tonfa through Goro's eye.
True.
But even still, comparatively to the other fatalities, that wasn't much of one.
No. We did get a good reference to fucking Goro's fatality when he's holding Cole by the throat and says he's going to rip his spine out now.
Yeah. Which I'm still sad we didn't get the Sub-Zero spine rip out, but I'm counting on that for the sequel because they do obviously defeat Sub-Zero at the end, and he gets kind of surrounded by black smoke. So they're setting up Noob Saibot, obviously, for the sequel. So I'm really hoping for a spine pull, because that's kind of like the iconic move that hasn't appeared yet.
Yeah. We have yet to see a human spine in a Mortal Kombat movie, and it's frankly fucking disappointing.
At least not in drawing form.
Yeah. So yeah, all the 1v1s are resolved, even though 2 of the 1v1s were actually called as a 2v2 and then split into 1v1s. And even one of those, it still ended up being a 1v2 because it was Sonya who killed.
Yeah, one of them became a 3v2.
Yeah. So.
Right, that's when Sonya came in and used her new arm beam to blow a hole through Melina. And
Yeah,
that's the one glimpse of a spine we get to see.
That's true.
It's true. I misspoke. We do get to see a human spine in one of these.
I mean, she's not human.
No.
Oh, that's true. It's not a human spine. Maybe they got a stunt double who was a human to do that shit.
That's how they'll explain Melina coming back in the sequel.
Yeah, I hear it's hard to get in contact with world actors.
Especially during a pandemic. You don't want to bring people between realms. Alright, so at this point, Sub-Zero shows up and he shows that he has a little foreshadowing bracelet from Cole's daughter to signify that he has captured his family and frozen them to death.
Menacingly walks back through a portal and Cole's like, no, and follows in.
Yep.
Runs through the portal.
Just as the portal closes behind him so no one else can follow him.
Immediately forgetting the 5v1 plan that they had and instead going with a 1v1.
Yeah. The other thing important to mention at this point is Cole does have the dagger that Hanzo used when he was fighting. And it
Still caked with Hanzo's blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Cole gets the shit kicked out of him by Sub-Zero pretty efficiently. Realizes he's about to be frozen to death as Sub-Zero has his cold hand on Cole's heart.
Also, Cole's family is all frozen in the cage and presumably dead.
Oh yeah, it's important to mention that this is happening in the MMA arena from the beginning of the movie, except now cold.
And it's all frozen over.
Cold.
Oh!
Oh, I'm sorry. Alright, so Cole realizes his only chance is to draw the fucking Hanzo blade and stab Sub-Zero with it real good.
Except it bounces off Sub-Zero's armor. Because that's what armor does.
Yep. And then Sub-Zero turns it around and tries to stab Cole with it. Cole grabs it with his hand, and then his blood, the blood of the Hasashi bloodline, drips onto the blade, and then the blade starts glowing with hellfire.
And that's when we get the Mortal Kombat Techno Syndrome sting.
Yep.
As Sub-Zero gets stabbed from behind.
And then we hear the words, I know at the very least the 3 of us were very highly anticipating right there, which is just, it pans over, we see Scorpion holding the other end of the rope, and he just yells, "Get over here!" The only English word said by the Japanese character the entire movie. I mean, they couldn't have said the line in Japanese. It would not have been nearly as iconic. Anyways, we get
Amazing
the best
sequence.
scene in the entire fucking movie.
Cole punching ice.
Yes, hole punching ice. And then we cut back to this boring shit where it's a fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
That just sounds blasphemous, what you just said.
Sorry, I don't think I can be on this podcast anymore. I don't deserve it. But yeah, we see Scorpion going toe-to-toe with Sub-Zero, except not exactly going toe-to-toe. It keeps, like, fluctuating between who's doing better. And then it literally keeps cutting back to Cole just, like, yelling at his arms and then punching ice. It's just like, Cole, why is this a priority? Like, I understand your family's frozen, but they're going to continue to be frozen. And if Sub-Zero wins that fight, then they die for sure if they're not already dead. Maybe make sure Sub-Zero dies before you start punching ice really aggressively. But he doesn't listen to me yelling inside my head because I don't want to ruin the movie. But yes, literally the best fucking scene in the movie is the fight scene between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. We even get, like, what I think is the coolest fucking thing where fucking Sub-Zero stabs Scorpion with his ice sword and then grabs the blood that's shooting out of Scorpion and freezes it into a blood knife and then stabs that back into fucking Scorpion. It's a very good fight scene.
Yeah, they really show off a lot of what the powers they have in the games are. In fact, Sub-Zero also uses the ice decoy move to dodge one of the attacks, which is pretty good.
Also makes the ice wall and throws fucking Scorpion into it.
Very fluid choreography for this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the director hired people that could do the things so that they didn't have to do stunt coordinators and all that stuff.
Yeah. Because the guy who's playing fucking... not to cut away from the discussion of the fight scene. The guy who's playing be Han. He was also IP Man, wasn't he?
I believe so, but you might know him a little bit more from a little movie called The Raid.
Yeah, that too.
I feel like that's a lot more impressive than that one.
Fair. I'm just trying to remember when I fucking saw him from, and The Raid was not what came to mind at first. It was IP Man for some reason.
No, it's always going to be The Raid.
Fair. So yes, we get a beautiful little choreography. Fucking Sub-Zero gets thrown into the center of the MMA arena because they've just been fighting in the wings up until now. And then Scorpion dives through, cuts his sword through him, and this is when we get the fucking ice decoy. Sub-Zero standing further back. And then finally Cole's like, wait a second, maybe I should punch even harder. And he goes back to punching the ice, only for Sub-Zero to start directly attacking him, and that's when Cole decides to participate in the fucking fight.
So Scorpion and Cole have to team up against Sub-Zero. They're kind of just stripping away his armor, I guess, as the fight goes on, revealing the person underneath.
Yeah.
Now, this is because in the concept of the story, we know that Sub-Zero is the one that kills his family, and I think in the games, Hanzo Hasashi isn't from, like, 16th century Japan. He's, like, more modern, but lived in, like, a little village thing.
Yeah.
But in this one, both of them are alive, like, 600 years ago, roughly, or 400 years ago.
Yeah.
And so they don't really go into details about why he's still alive, unless they're going to try, like, oh, his ice powers make him live longer because he's, like, in a partial cryostasis.
Or some deal he made with Shang Tsung.
I assumed that was why he was working for Shang Tsung, was because Shang Tsung gave him the powers of immortality or something like that. That's what I fucking assumed was going on.
So I'd be curious to see how they're going to try to set up Kuai Liang with this now.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to explain Kuai Liang's existence.
Well, he can't be... Well, I guess he could be Sub-Zero's brother, but Kuai Liang has always been a good character, so him accepting the immortality doesn't seem to make sense. So they might
have him be like a descendant of Sub-Zero.
Like Cole, and then have the continuation of the Sub-Zero, Sub-Zero Scorpion feud be between those two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's entirely possible. But yeah, they strip away Sub-Zero's armor, stab him through the heart.
Sub-Zero has a scene where he slowly gets back up and then closes the cage door.
No one's going anywhere.
Until this fight is done.
So, obviously, Scorpion's the one that finishes them off. And the thing I love with this is we get Scorpion's fatality.
Yeah,
and I quite the same.
I love how they do it, though. As opposed to the traditional, his whole head is a skull.
Yeah, instead of pulling off his face and revealing a skull.
He pulls off his face mask, and when he's breathing fire, the heat from the fire coming from his mouth is melting the skin around his mouth.
Yeah, it's slowly breaking down, so you see, like, he still has the human eyes, but he's got, like, a skull bottom half of his face, which as soon as he's done, he covers back up with his mask. And then, so yeah, it's not exactly the same, but I like the way that they handled it for this movie.
And even to drive home even harder the point that he is an undead revenant back for revenge, when he next pulls off his mask, his face is back to normal.
Yeah. Also, leading up to this, Scorpion fire punches the ground, which immediately he wakes up with Cole's daughter and wife.
Yeah, which is means one of two things, because it means either, once again, Sub-Zero's bad at checking whether people are dead before leaving them, or fucking Scorpion specifically talks about how the fire is hellfire and he has gained control over hellfire, which could also equally mean that Cole's family was dead and was in hell, and Scorpion used hellfire to bring them back.
I'm going to choose to believe that they just went to sleep for being too cold, and then that little bit of fire warmed them up just enough.
That's the preferable option, but I do in my head now have the headcanon that they were burning in hell, and Sub-Zero are not Sub-Zero.
No, we're not having that.
The reference now.
Yeah. So, Sub-Zero dies, and then fucking all the gang shows back up to hang out with Cole. And they're like, oh man, you did it, congrats.
Not before a little scene where Scorpion says in Japanese to Cole, it's like, continue to protect our bloodline, and then disappears again. Meanwhile, I'm just there sitting thinking, he doesn't understand Japanese, he has no idea what you said.
So, two things. First of all, he's speaking Japanese that was spoken 400 years ago. Dialects tend to change over that amount of time. Also, I like, because he doesn't say protect our bloodline, he says protect my bloodline, which perhaps means to me that maybe Hanzo Hasashi doesn't even realize that Cole is his descendant, he just thinks the little girl is his descendant.
Or the fact that, the other thing that implies that Cole has no idea what was said too is in the opening of the movie, Hanzo even specifically says to Bi-Han when he's talking to him, I have no idea what you said because your subtitles were Chinese and mine are Japanese.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to kill you, blah, 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 and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that implies, the characters don't have fluency back and forth between the languages. And there's nothing to indicate that Cole's I'm just some guy from Chicago.
Yeah.
The only character shown to have fluency in multiple languages was Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
Yep. God damn. So, friends show up. They talk about how they won the day, and then fucking Shang Tsung shows up and he's like, you may have won today, but next time I won't bring warriors, I'll bring armies. Hinting at the next movie.
And while he's doing this whole monologue, Red just kind of zaps him away. It's he talks too much.
He talks way too much. And then we start talking about how we gotta find new champions to fight.
Right. It's we need to have new champions. We need to find them, and then that's where we get the hint to Johnny Cage, because Cole's I can't fight in the MMA arena anymore. I gotta go to Hollywood. It's what's in Hollywood? Not what? Ooh. And then it pans over to a Johnny Cage poster.
Yeah, Citizen Cage, know your rights. Yeah, it's great. And then the movie ends. And we're all the better for it.
Yeah, and I will admit, plot-wise, it wasn't the best, but
it didn't need to be.
For a Mortal Kombat movie, it did the job well.
Yeah.
It did not need to have the perfect plot. It did exactly what it needed to do, which was involve combat between people with magical powers fighting to the death.
Now, what I will say is, if there is a big fault to the movie, it's that it felt very much like it wasn't its own conclusive story, and that it was only here to serve the purpose of setting up a future movie. Which, even though the director's we're not planning this as, multiple movies down the line, we want to focus on making the one movie. It's but did you though? Because this really feels like you were man, this next movie's going to be crazy.
It definitely, I would say if they didn't have the line from Shang Tsung about next time I'll bring armies, I think the movie would have been 100% a fully standalone movie. I feel like they just threw in that fucking line to hint at future movies. I would say that the movie told a story on its own. It just also set up a future story to be told.
Yeah, but even without that line at the end about the armies, everything about the movie, just plot-wise, was leading up to a tournament, so that leaves you expecting to see a tournament.
Yeah. But then fucking Cole has his line about how we're going to give him a tournament, and fight 1v1, and 2v2, and 3v2, and 5v1 if we get the chance.
But we know that's not the God-ordained Mortal Kombat tournament.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, no. So it definitely was building to something that we didn't get to see. There's very clearly going to be future movies that they have planned.
Hopefully. Because I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I would like there to be new ones.
I think they have confirmed that they plan on making new ones. It just depends on if this one fucking fails miserably, then they're not going to bother. Please. I'm mad about the 55% critic rating right now.
That's bound to change.
That's bound to fucking skyrocket, hopefully.
The movie's been out for a day.
Yeah.
As of recording this.
That's true. The only people who have seen it are the main people who've seen it probably at this point are the fucking pretentious critics who were hoping to see fucking period piece about living in 1600s Japan or some shit like that.
And then people who are fans of the series who are dying to see this movie and wouldn't immediately go to Metacritic to rate the movie after enjoying it.
Yeah. So what'd you guys think? Good movie, great movie, perfect movie?
Flawless.
No rating below any of those?
Flawless victory, I might say.
That wasn't one of the 3 ratings I gave you. No. Just kidding, Matt, you're fine.
I'd say it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect movie by no means, but it did what it needed to do as a Mortal Kombat movie. I was entertained. I would like to see this continue.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd probably also classify it as a great movie. The fact that, the things we discussed not liking about the 1995 movie that were kind of not necessarily addressed, but were but done better in this movie. Like the fact that no one says flawless victory after getting the shit kicked out of them. The fact that fucking we get the Kano wins. I don't think that was something we discussed about that, but I do feel like that was a good addition. The fact that we saw more than one fatality.
Yeah.
The things they added to this movie that weren't in the 1995 movie, I think were all positive changes. And I'm only more excited to see where they go from here.
Exactly.
Because They even address the fact that there are characters outside of like the 8 from the original movie, so they have something to build towards down the line.
Yeah, and resurrection is a thing in the Mortal Kombat universe, so I think they're more embracing the magical aspect of it as well, where they can just ruthlessly kill off characters and have them come back. For example, Bihan, if you know the games, when he dies, he comes back as Noob Saibot because he becomes a Revenant in much the same way as Scorpion does. So that's setting him up. As I mentioned, Goro getting killed this early is kind of the upsetting part because it kind of defangs him moving forward if he's going to be a big part in the tournament, because Shang Tsung can resurrect people. That's
Well, we should address that. Shang Tsung makes a specific call to the fact that he can resurrect people because he says death is just another portal. And we see him specifically use his portal magic on fucking Sub-Zero's corpse and on fucking Goro's corpse. So I don't think we're going to see any of the others in the future movie. We might, but I think those are the two we're mostly going to see in future movies if we get them. Because they made a point of showing that those two will be resurrected. Hopefully Goro is better. Maybe. Not that I disliked Goro, but I would like him to be a more imposing threat.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give him mecha arms like Jax.
And then he'll pull them off and realize the true strength is inside him all along. So I think going forward, we're probably going to get a movie. Like, the main antagonist of this movie may have been Shang Tsung, but the big threat of the movie was Sub-Zero all along. Mm-hmm. So I think going forward in the next movie, we probably will get Shang Tsung being more of a big threat.
Well, Shang Tsung's the big villain at the end of the first tournament, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to continue it and make it at least the next movie in the storyline, it'll be obviously the tournament on Shang Tsung's island. Shang Tsung will be the final boss of that one. And then at that point, if they're going to go forward and continue the story with, the fight with Shao Kahn. Yeah.
So if we get a trilogy out of these movies, it's probably going to be Shang Tsung the big bad in the next one, and then Shao Kahn in the third one. And Shao Kahn just invades Earthrealm because he doesn't care anymore. Yep.
Yeah.
So, with that being said then, what characters do you think we should expect in the sequel? Obviously, Johnny Cage is an easy give. We know Johnny Cage will be in it.
Yep.
That Nightwolf? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably maybe him.
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think we should expect him, but I really want them to have Kotal Khan in the next one. Not even the next one. In the third one where they're fighting Shao Kahn, I want Kotal Khan to show up.
Well, Kotal Khan is one of the generals for Shao Kahn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think obviously they bring back Goro, and they could possibly bring back Kano, just like if they want to have the characters from that first tournament.
Because the way we saw Kano get like scars all over the right side of his face, and then we specifically saw the fucking gnome get stabbed into the right side of his face, which in the games is the part that's just the metal plate with the laser eye. So it's very easy to say that they could resurrect him or use fucking technology to bring him back to life with the fucking metal plate.
And that could go into the thing of, so far we've only been told that you have to kill the person to get the mark, and nothing's been really specified on that. So it could be very much just defeating the person is all you really need to do to get the mark.
Yeah, and that also kind of begs the question, from my mind anyway, if someone got their power through being able to, or through having the mark, if the mark's taken away, do they still keep the power?
I would assume they would.
Yeah. Yeah, even though I said earlier that they need the mark to get the power, I don't think they need the mark to keep the power. If the mark gets taken away through whatever means, I think they do maintain the power that they were given.
Makes sense.
Also, if they keep Melina dead, I can see that being the intro for Katana and why she's in the tournament.
Yep,
that's what I was thinking. Because we also saw Katana's fan in the temple.
Yeah. If they want to do it a bit speeding things up, they could make it that Sub-Zero returns in the tournament, but it's actually Earthrealm Kuai Liang Sub-Zero, and then have Noob Saibot appear as one of the villains.
Yeah, absolutely. We could have a huge time jump and have... What's...
Baraka.
What?
Baraka!
No, I was thinking of fucking Johnny Cage's daughter.
Cassie Cage?
Cassie Cage. That'd be a huge time jump to have her involved.
I feel like you have to do the Mortal Kombat tournament that was less than a month away.
Yeah. I just mean they could have that one, and then in the third one, they could potentially have Cassie Cage.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't really know all that many Mortal Kombat characters, so I don't know who could make an appearance after this.
Ermac's another good one that could show up.
Ermac is definitely a character who could possibly make a showing.
You see, my big problem is I'm not confident in them doing Baraka. I'm not confident in anyone doing Baraka.
I don't think anyone could do Baraka, to be honest with you. Is there anything else to be said about the movie then? It's great. Go see it. Pay lots of money to see it so they make a sequel.
Yep.
Or just see it multiple times.
Yeah, even if you've already seen it, go see it again after listening to this podcast. And then listen to this podcast again, and then see it again. Create an endless cycle of seeing the movie. Okay, well, in that case, you know how we do this podcast. We talk about stuff, and then we stop talking. And once we stop talking, we tell you to, like, check out our Instagram, where we upload pictures when we upload episodes, as well as when we record. Except we didn't do it for this one, because this one's a Wimpy Bite. It doesn't count.
And so outside of this episode's release schedule, we're typically releasing on a bi-weekly basis once every 2 weeks.
Also, make sure if you have an idea for what our podcast could be about, or if you just have a question you want to ask us, or you just have something you want us to talk about in general, you can always shoot us an email. That email is whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. Spelt the way words are always spelt. And then we got another episode another week, because this one came out on and off schedule specifically because of Mortal Kombat. Also, I'm probably going to address this now. There's like a 60% chance that it's not what we hinted in our last podcast, because fucking Halifax is going back into lockdown. And if that's the case, it's going to be something entirely different. And then we'll talk about what we hinted at talking about then.